ever looked in the mirror and felt a quiet, heavy disappointment you couldn't explain? Not because you dislike your face, but because the world taught you to. This is the silent story of millions, and almost no one talks about it. We grow up believing beauty is simple. A pretty face, a good angle, something you either have or don't have. But the psychology of feeling unattractive is far deeper, older, and more complicated than most people ever realize. Because the truth is this: no one is born feeling unattractive. We learn it slowly, quietly, from the world around us. But before we reach that story, let me tell you something else, something you may have never heard. People who grow up feeling unattractive often develop some of the strongest minds, deepest emotional intelligence, and most resilient identities of all. There is a hidden psychology behind this transformation, and today you're going to understand it with absolute clarity. Let's begin. You weren't born looking at your reflection and judging it. You weren't born comparing your face, your body, your smile with someone else's. Babies don't care about beauty. They care about connection. They care about faces that look at them with warmth. But somewhere along the way, something changes. For many people, it starts early, sometimes with a single sentence, a classmate's mocking comment, a relative's careless remark, a comparison that cuts deeper than anyone understands. You're not as pretty as your sister. You look weird. You're not the attractive one in the family. Words like that don't just sting. They shape reality. They begin carving a psychological identity that stays for years. Humans are storytellers, and from childhood, we begin writing our personal stories based on the reactions of others. If the world treats you like you're invisible, you begin to shrink. If people only compliment the appearance of others, you learn to stay in the background. If someone makes you the ugly friend, the unattractive sibling, the funny one instead of the beautiful one, your mind internalizes a deadly lie. I'm not enough. And this lie becomes a lens through which everything is interpreted. You enter a room and assume people are judging your face. You hear laughter and automatically think it's about you. You avoid photos because they feel like evidence. You learn to hide parts of yourself, not because you're actually unattractive, but because you were trained to believe it. But here's where psychology gets interesting. When someone grows up feeling less attractive than others, they begin developing different skills, powerful skills, sometimes without even knowing it. They watch the world more carefully. They read people more deeply. They build empathy because they know what it feels like to be overlooked. They develop emotional maturity because they've had to understand themselves in ways others never did. Ironically, many people who were treated as less attractive grow into the kind of adults who have exceptional presence, a depth that cannot be replicated by surface-level beauty. But it isn't an easy journey. One of the biggest psychological wounds of feeling unattractive is this: you assume love must be earned through personality, accomplishments, or effort, because appearance was never enough. You work harder, you try harder, you give more, you tolerate more, and sometimes you accept less than you deserve, because your mind whispers, "This is the best I can get." Not because it's true, but because it feels true. Another psychological effect: people who feel unattractive often become perfectionists. They hyper-focus on other areas: education, skills, career, humor, kindness. They feel they must be exceptional in one area to make up for the one the world criticized. But here is the twist. Most of the time, feeling unattractive has almost nothing to do with your actual appearance. It has everything to do with comparison. If you grew up around extremely confident or conventionally attractive siblings, classmates, or friends, you will evaluate yourself based on them, not based on reality. Your mind learns a distorted scale. Even adults who are objectively attractive struggle with this. Even models feel this. Even public figures experience it. Because beauty is not a fact, it's a perception. And perception is shaped by environment, culture, society, and self-esteem. Here's a psychological truth that most people never learn. Your brain is more influenced by the reactions of people during your early years than by the mirror in front of you today. Someone can grow up believing they're unattractive because of a few painful experiences, even if everyone else sees them differently. Someone can grow up believing they're average, even if others think they're beautiful. Someone can grow up believing they're invisible, even if they become admired later in life. We don't see ourselves as we are. We see ourselves as we learn to be. But now we move deeper. When you feel unattractive, every social interaction becomes filtered through self-criticism. You assume rejection before it even happens. You replay conversations, photos, small moments through an unforgiving inner judge. You avoid situations not because you aren't capable, but because you feel like you don't belong. Psychology calls this self-objectification, the habit of viewing your own body from the outside as if you are constantly being observed and evaluated. This creates anxiety, then withdrawal, then loneliness, then isolation, then more negative self-image, a cycle that continues for years. But here comes something important, the part people rarely talk about. Your sense of attractiveness is not a reflection of your face. It's a reflection of your emotional history. If someone loved you deeply, attentively, and consistently early in life, your mind internalized, I am worthy, I am lovable. If your surroundings ignored you, mocked you, compared you, or rejected you, your mind internalized, I am less, I am inferior, I don't deserve love. It has nothing to do with your jawline, your skin, your eyes, your nose, your body. It has everything to do with the emotional environment that shaped your self-worth. Beauty is not about features, it's about confidence, it's about presence, it's about how you carry yourself. It's about how you talk, walk, breathe, think, act. Two people with the same face can have completely different levels of attractiveness, not because one is more beautiful, but because one believes they are worthy, and worthiness changes everything. Now, let's touch one of the deepest psychological truths in this topic. People who feel unattractive are often incredibly attractive to others, but they cannot see it. They don't perceive the small moments, the glances people give them, the warmth in someone's voice, the attention they receive, the admiration others quietly hold, because they automatically filter out anything positive. They assume compliments are lies. They assume admiration is a mistake. They assume interest is temporary. They reject affection before affection can reach them. Why? Because when your mind builds a self-concept early in life, it protects it, even if it's hurting you. This is why feeling unattractive is not a physical issue. It's a cognitive pattern. But the most powerful part of this story is this: you can rewrite it at any age, at any stage, with the right psychological understanding. You are not trapped in the identity the world gave you. You are not defined by early comparisons. You are not limited by the label someone put on you. You are not the reflection in someone else's eyes. You are the reflection in your own. And that reflection can change. Attractiveness grows when you stop chasing approval and start building presence. When you stop comparing and start expressing. When you stop shrinking and start living. Confidence is not the belief that you are beautiful. Confidence is the belief that you are allowed to exist fully, exactly as you are. And once you understand this, once you begin healing the emotional wounds that taught you to hide, you will realize something extraordinary. You were never unattractive. You were unseen, including by yourself. Beauty begins when the self stops apologizing for existing. And if no one has told you this before, let me say it clearly. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be valued. You deserve to feel worthy, not because of your appearance, but because you are human. And the day you understand that is the day your life begins to change. Now listen carefully. If you feel unseen, if you feel less beautiful, if you feel like the world has passed you by, you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not inferior. You're simply at the beginning of a story that millions have lived and thousands have transformed. Confidence can be built. Presence can be learned. Identity can be reconstructed. And beauty, real beauty, comes from self-acceptance, depth, emotion, and integrity. You don't need a perfect face to be extraordinary. You need a mind that is finally willing to believe in itself. And that journey starts with one decision: to stop letting the world define your worth and start discovering it yourself. If you want to go deeper into this kind of psychology, identity, and emotional transformation, make sure you're subscribed to Dr. Vane. Your mind deserves clarity, and your story deserves a new beginning.